Good evening. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education, Clark Public Schools. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with PL 1975, Chapter 231, and that a special notice was made in conformance with Section 13 of the Act.
Motion to go back in public?
Yes.
Motion to go back in public. Ms. Harrison, followed by Ms. Akalonis. Roll call.
All in favor?
Aye. All right, this time, can we
Pledge your allegiance.
Yes, sir.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Akalonis?
Here.
Mr. Bensavinga?
Here.
Mr. Breedy?
Here.
Ms. Harrison?
Here.
Ms. Guerrero?
Here.
Ms. Hickman?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. May? Present. Mr. Smorrow?
Here.
And Mr. Dunkersloot?
Here.
Having 10 board members, we have a quorum.
At this time, hand it back over to you, Mr. Rizzuto, for the presentation of the tentative annual school budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, we have a board resolution for the board to approve to submit the tentative budget to the county superintendent for the 25-26 school year. Just to recap a couple of numbers here, the general fund for 25-26 total expenditure is $46,550,939. Anticipated revenue is $9.3 million. Taxes to be raised is $37,152,735. Now, what comprises of the $9.3 million? As you know, we have the send received with Garwood. That would be $2.5 in tuition received. State aid is $3.4 million, and our fund balance is $3.1 million. Special revenue is $1.3 million, and we also get that $1.3 million in federal and state grants. No taxes to be raised for special revenue. Our debt service is $1.8 million. Taxes to be raised with debt service of $1.8. Total budget is $49,726,000. Anticipated revenue is $10,766,000, and taxes to be raised $38,960,000. Does any board members have a question? Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve the tentative budget. Mr. Breedy, followed by Mr. Smorrow. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Akalonis?
Yes.
Mr. Bensavinga?
Yes.
Mr. Breedy?
Yes.
Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Ms. Guerrero?
Yes.
Ms. Hickman?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. Smorrow?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunkersloot? Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, can I get a motion for the approval of minutes? I see Mrs. Hickman, followed by Mrs. Harrison. Questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Ms. Akalonis?
Yes.
Mr. Bensavinga?
Abstain.
Mr. Breedy?
Yes.
Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Ms. Guerrero?
Yes on the on February 3rd and abstain on March the 5th.
Ms. Hickman?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. Smorrow?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunkersloot?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now, at this time, we will go to, we're going to open the floor to the public for agenda items only. So if there's anything on the agenda that you would like to come up and discuss, at the end of the meeting will be non-agenda items. So at this time is agenda items only. So seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. We have personnel items 1 through 21 and addenda number 1. Can I get a motion? I see Ms. Akalonis, followed by Mr. Bensavinga. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Akalonis?
Yes.
Mr. Bensavinga?
Yes.
Mr. Breedy?
Yes.
Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Ms. Guerrero?
Abstain on 3, 4, 6, 7, 10, 12, 15, 18, 19, 20, and the addendum.
Thank you. Ms. Hickman?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. May,
Yes.
Mr. Smurl,
Yes.
and Mr. Dunkersloot.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, I want to just take a moment to thank and congratulate June Curdy, our nurse, who did a fantastic job in the Clark schools, in particular the high school. June, you affected and helped so many students in our high school that it would be remiss if I didn't congratulate you, and I certainly hope you have a wonderful next life. Congratulations, June.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next section, curriculum and education. We have items 22 to 24. Can I get a motion? I see Ms. Harrison, followed by Ms. Akalonis. Questions or comments? A roll call, please.
Ms. Akalonis?
Yes.
Mr. Bensavinga?
Yes.
Mr. Breedy?
Yes.
Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Ms. Guerrero?
Abstain on 23, yes on the rest.
Ms. Hickman?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunkersloot.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We have item number 25 on policy. Can I get a motion? See Mrs. Hickman, followed by Mr. Bensavenga. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Akalonis?
Yes.
Mr. Bensavinga?
Yes.
Mr. Breedy?
Yes.
Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Ms. Guerrero?
Yes.
Ms. Hickman?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunkersloot.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then we have board governance, items 26 to 31. Can I get a motion? Mr. May, followed by Ms. Akalonis. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Akalonis?
Yes on everything except on 27, abstain on C and D.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yes. Yes on everything except on item 27. I abstain on C and D.
Thank you. Mr. Bensavinga? Mr. Bensavinga?
My bad. Yes.
Mr. Breedy?
Yes on everything except for 27, letter A. I abstain.
Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Ms. Guerrero?
Abstain on 29 and 31, and yes on the rest.
Ms. Hickman?
Yes on everything, I abstain on 27B.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunkersloot.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then finally, we have items, finance items 32 to 44. Mr. Smurl, followed by Mr. Breedy. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Akalonis?
Yes.
Mr. Bensavinga?
Yes.
Mr. Breedy?
Yes.
Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Ms. Guerrero?
Abstain on 32, 33, 35, 36, and yes on the rest.
Ms. Hickman?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunkersloot.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, we're going to hand it over to Mr. Grandy for his report of the superintendent.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Dunkersloot. I'd like to begin by giving an update on our preschool. We're excited because we're receiving funding for an additional 4 classrooms at 15 students a classroom for a total of 60 new students joining us in September. We originally were planning to house these 60 students at a mobile extension, a module extension, to the Frank A. Henley School. As the process moved forward, we ran into some unanticipated issues with these units, and that forced us to look closer at our existing spaces. And we have what we believe now to be in a solution that we're very excited about and that we believe to be the best solution. We'll be housing our 60 preschoolers in an isolated wing of Arthur L. Johnson High School. And when I say isolated, completely secure from both the exterior and the interior of ALJ. It'll truly be a school within a school. And I'd like to thank Mrs. Oliveira and Mrs. Poske for really embracing this in the recent days. Again, it'll be safe, secure, and fully operational. The students will be given a complete and total preschool program, including an outdoor play space. We're anticipating preschool placements being sent this week. And students who are placed at ALJ, their parents will have an opportunity to ask us questions via a Google form so that we can prepare responses. And we are going to hold an evening event where we'll have those answers and we'll tour the parents through the facility so that they can get to see the vision for the site. Not all the work will be done on the site, obviously, but they'll get to at least see the vision for the site come September. Alongside that, we're working with our district architect to develop plans to enhance our facilities across all of our district schools. And information will be forthcoming in the coming months later this spring about more specifics regarding that process. We're looking to be transparent, but we also don't want to release information prematurely because, as you could see with this initiative we are undertaking, things change. And once we have a complete and secure picture, we will be sure to share that with our public. And we thank you for your patience and your partnership. On this evening's agenda, we're approving the tentative 25-26 school budget. And I'd like to thank Mr. Vizzuzo, the Finance Committee led by Mr. Small, along with Mr. Brady and Mr. May's members, and our entire board, our administration, and our staff, because they all play a critical role in the budget planning process. As Mr. Lewis mentioned, Mrs. Curdy, thank you for the great service you've given our schools. You were left hand to me during COVID, and you've always been good to our kids and our staff, and we're going to miss you. Thank you. And also, we're accepting the retirement of Mr. Philip Scardelli, who's been an ALJ teacher for 19 years, and Phil will also be missed. Next school year's calendar is on this evening's agenda. It will be sent district-wide via school messenger tomorrow, along with being posted on the district website. Camp Cougar was approved August 21st to 26th, two two-day sessions for our incoming sixth grade students at a cost of $50 per student, and more details will follow from the Kumpf Middle School. We're also excited for the return of the CHK intramural track program at $50 per student, and similarly, details will be coming from Kumpf School regarding that program. We had our National Day of Unplugging last Friday, and it was just good to see the kids return to a lifestyle that was similar to when many of us grew up. And we were just glad to see that return and that not always being so connected to these electronic devices. Our NJGPA high school graduation testing for juniors begins this week and runs through Friday. This high school, except for juniors, will be on a delayed opening schedule. And the past 2 weeks, we had Read Across America, which encompassed guest readers, many of ourselves, and students from our National Honor Society visited from Kumpf to Henley School and Valley Road School. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Grandy. At this time, does a report of the committees? Seeing none, any new or unfinished business? All right, so seeing none, Aiden, over to you.
Thank you and good evening. I'll begin my report with events at Arthur L. Johnson. Starting tomorrow, March 11th, 11th graders will be taking the NJGPA, or New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment. Completing this test is an important milestone for 11th graders who have spent weeks practicing. Alongside that, ALJ's chapter of the National Honor Society is currently hosting a food drive throughout the school. Over at Carl H. Kumpf Middle School, members of the school's theater program just wrapped up their fantastic production of the musical Matilda. Later this week, on March 13th, Kumpf students will have a chance to embrace their creative side as they visit the Union County Teen Arts Festival. Finally, to close out the month, the Kumpf PTA is bringing everyone together for a spring dance on March 28th. Looking towards Frank A. Henley, this month will focus on both reading and wellness activities. This school has had a whole host of guest speakers come in and read and connect with students, including members of the Clark Police Department, local librarians, and more. Towards the end of the month, on March 26th, 4th and 5th graders will have the opportunity to showcase their hard work and dedication in their performance of their spring musical. At Valley Road School, this month is also big for reading. From March 11th to the 13th, students can tap into their inner bookworm and at their school's book fair. Alongside this, next week, Valley Road School is hosting their Wellness Week, which is focused on encouraging mindfulness and healthy habits among students. During this week, Chef Igor, a dietitian, will go to the school and teach students about what it really means to live healthy. Finally, at the preschool, a back-to-school night was held to parents to learn more about the program. Alongside this, there will be professional development in March for teachers on the Tools of the Mind curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you, Aidan. All right, so at this time, we're going to open the floor to the public for non-agenda items, but I'm just going to read some of the points here. A participant must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface comments by an announcement of his or her name, their address, and then you have 3 minutes to state your case. Each statement made by participants shall be limited to 3 minutes duration with no sharing of time. No participant may speak more than once on the named topic until all others who wish to speak about that topic have been heard. And all statements, questions, or inquiries shall be directed to the presiding officer, and any questions or inquiries directed by a participant to another board member shall be redirected to the presiding officer, who shall determine if such statement, question, or inquiry shall be addressed by the presiding officer on behalf of the board or by the individual board member. So at this time, we'll open up the podium to anybody that would like to have a comment about non-agenda items only. Come up, state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes. You guys can create a line if you like. So there's.
Hi, everyone. Nick Carbonara, 896 Rowden Road. I have questions about the pedophile. So my first question, I'll run through a list of 4 questions and then I'll be done. My first question is, why was his name excluded from the email? An arrest is public record. You're sending an email for a pedophile in the school. I feel that name was hidden because of the class that he taught, right? Our kids were submitting photos and videos to him on a daily basis. So that's concerning to me. Second one, whose decision was it to change the class or to make the class a multimedia class? He drafted the curriculum, so kind of feels like he set himself up for his own pleasure. Why has this not been addressed to the students? The kids are maybe not in the dark, right, because they hear it from us, but they talk about it in school and they get yelled at for talking about it in school, and then there's an email that comes out that says, there's counseling available, but they get yelled at when they talk about it in school. So I find that a little bit odd. And then my last question or comment is, back to school night happens once a year. This teacher teaches 4 different sections of the year, 4 marking periods. So the people who have him in the first marking period get to meet him, and then the other 3 marking periods do not get to meet those teachers. And I'm curious as to why that's the case, because obviously if many of us heard that a student is going to be submitting photos and videos of themselves throughout an entire marking period, might have raised a concern for anybody who is expecting to have him the next 3 marking periods. So those are my 4 questions.
I can answer just the question about the email. By state law, we do it with everyone. When we speak about personnel, it's confidential, so we give as much information as we can. We just, by practice, leave the individual's name. We do it every time, so that's why it was done. It was all in the newspaper, you all know who it was, so it wasn't just our confidentiality is different than the confidentiality that the newspaper enjoys and other entities do.
And then, just so we're clear, this is Maggie Miller, who is our attorney for the district.
Shannon Perrin, 308 Parkway Drive. To kind of reiterate what that gentleman was just saying, my son is also an 8th grader at the middle school. We were private until this year for several years, and now I'm kind of regretting my decision to move back. So to kind of piggyback off what he was saying, we don't get to see every teacher, and this class also required extensive photos and videos to be uploaded. My son was required to create a website about himself that is currently published and accessible by anybody who has the website address. I was not asked, I was not given a release, and the media release that is signed at the beginning of every year does not cover graded class assignments. It specifically states that photos and videos to be used in displays and publications, including but not limited to local television broadcasts and newspapers. And I don't feel that that adequately covers the fact that your kid could have their picture just put out there. Also, they're asking them, students who are minors, to turn these assignments in for a grade. So I feel like that's not something that should be done without parental consent. So either we need to look at this curriculum and say that there's a myriad of ways that we can use other photos that are not of a student who is a minor to create a website or to learn about photo editing. Also, the curriculum, as stated, was created by this teacher, and the portion that was the most concerning to me, which was the website, was really broadly interpreted. The students were required to pick from a list that was provided by the teacher, and I just don't think that a student putting their face out, especially all the students in this class are minors, and this is not a class that was for photography or anything like that, so it's not something that you can expect as a parent to see. I also was, to reiterate, disappointed by how the school approached this. This is something that, although I understand you can't address it directly in the class, these students are exposed to apps where this is directly related to that. This gentleman and another gentleman in the same town were arrested around the same time for the same things, where they were communicating with minors in apps. And I think that it's really a good teachable moment to just take the students aside and remind them of the dangers of the apps, and also that if they were the victim of something like this, that they can approach any adult in the school, because they're gonna talk amongst themselves. They're not gonna come to you and tell you. They're teenagers. So I really feel like that was a missed opportunity. So I would like to find out how this is going to be addressed to the students, if at all, and how you're going to follow up with the curriculum to make sure that this doesn't occur again.
So I'd like to begin my comments by just saying that the administration, the board, we all empathize and we understand how you're feeling as parents. The curriculums go through a revision cycle every 5 years, and these courses were no exception. At the time when these curriculums were in place, we did not have any of the knowledge that we have now. And the assignments that were part of those courses made sense from a filming perspective. We have information now that we didn't have at that time. Some of the feedback you're giving this evening about back-to-school night opportunities for semester teachers, teachers that the parents don't get to meet in September, is something we're definitely hearing. And please know, we are not trying to silence our students from speaking about this unfortunate incident. Unfortunately, some students have been making some inappropriate memes and so forth in response to this, and we've had to address that. But we want to keep, it's a delicate balance. We want to address and be sensitive to our students, but at the same time, we want to maintain as normal of a school as possible and as typical of a school experience as possible for our students given this. And, you know, just please continue to let us know if your child is in need of any counseling services. Encourage your student to speak to his or her school counselor. But again, please let us know and we will help facilitate those connections. You know, please know that.
I'm just going to address your question regarding the media release. The media release is for pictures, videos things that are put out to the public, releases to the newspaper. We don't do releases for curriculum because they are mandatory parts of the curriculum. So there's not a separate release. It's not getting released to the public. That's why we don't have a separate release for that. That's my understanding, that anything that was created in the classroom was just used class-wide and wasn't published. We will double check that because that's not my understanding of how it's supposed to run. So certainly. Again, it should be that they're creating a website that cannot be accessed by or spread, that information spread to the public. So we will double check that for sure, but that's not our understanding of how that was supposed to work. So apologies on that.
Are there any other comments? State your name, your address.
Bill Draghi, 47 Post Road, Clark, New Jersey. I'd like to talk about Governor Murphy's law, which says the parents have no rights when a trans child wants to change their sex, and they have the school can actually talk to the person about that and even promote that child to change their sex without parental consent. That's the law that Governor Murphy has in effect right now. And it was brought up in President Trump's joint session speech about a week ago. He had a lady there from Tallahassee, and her daughter was indoctrinated by the school in Tallahassee, Leon County Board of Education, and she didn't give the consent to have her daughter indoctrinated on this and help her daughter to be trans to a boy, I think. Well, it was a daughter, so it must have been a boy. And he brought that up. She was there. A lot of you probably watched it and saw her there, and she was very sad. And she sued the the Leon County Board of Education about this. And a federal judge came out and said, "Oh, it's not worthy of a suit." But now she's appealing it, and I'm sure, not positive, but I'm quite sure that if it gets to the Supreme Court, she will win. And that county will probably lose thousands of dollars. But the main thing is, how could a parent not be told about this or consent to it when her daughter is being helped to be a trans boy? It's ridiculous. And also, Trump brought up in his joint session of union address that he had a bill for no trans girls rather, in girls' sports, and it was every Democrat voted against it. So it's so bad.
Thank you, Mr. Draghi.
So and he has also has an executive order that should be no trans boys in girls' sports. So you should obey that.
Thank you, Mr. Draghi.
Because he's the president, and Governor Murphy is only
Mr.
the
Draghi,
governor.
your time has expired. Any other comments? State your name and your address.
Ainsley Barr, 48 Skyline Drive. I'm here to talk about the bag policy at AOJ. Growing up at a time where these precautions need to be taken is scary, but this precaution specifically causes more difficulties for us as students. When I say us, I am referring to the 250 names signed on this petition here, which is about 1/3 of our school. I spent 2 weeks going around during our lunch and flex blocks talking to the student body. This consists of a mix of boys, girls, student council members, and students in all grades. I asked them how they felt about this rule, if they would support the words I'm saying today, and asked them to sign if they agreed with me. The most commonly used bags that sparked this rule were Lululemon bags that mostly girls were using. These bags are small, measuring only 11.5 inches in height, 8.5 in length, and 4.5 in width. This paper measures 11 inches in height and 8.5 in length, leaving little to no space above it. You can't carry much besides some folders, papers, your Chromebook, and maybe a pencil case. We're requesting to unban bags 13 by 13 inches or less. This creates just enough space for things like the 2-inch binder that I use for just my morning classes. Bags also create a sense of privacy for women who make up majority of bag users. By banning bags, more trips to our lockers have been caused for personal items, gym clothes, and hygiene products. These trips are out of our way considering we usually have multiple classes across the building from our lockers. Carrying our stuff also leads to dropping things in the hall, since we have to have papers, notebooks, and our Chromebooks for 6 classes every day. I'd like to take the time to remind you that this is our school day I am talking about, our 5 days a week, 7 hours a day. This rule causes inconveniences for us as students more than it does good for security. I did do some research to find the harsh reality about security in schools. The National School Safety and Security Services responded to a clear bag idea, saying someone could still carry weapons on his or her person, which is what we anticipate individuals to do who choose to bring a weapon to school. They later on state that clear bags also give students less privacy, which goes against what we want because privacy is part of what we are currently seeking. Even if a traditional-sized backpack were to be see-through, there are still chances of weapons getting into a building. Reducing the size of our bags to tote bags instead of full-on backpacks can create privacy for students like me and also lower security risks. To go with our idea, there will obviously have to be rules to go with it, making the ability to carry a bag safe and a privilege. Currently, there's a rule that requires us to carry our IDs in the hallway. Throwing these IDs into our bags would not only be easier for us to actually use them every day, but would make us and our bags more identifiable if there was to be a security threat. Another idea would be requiring students to put a sticker on bags with their name and ID number. Similar to our lockers, our bags would also be able to be checked by security guards, admins, or teachers if they were deemed harmful or suspicious to us or other students. In conclusion, we're requesting to unban tote bags 13 by 13 and anything smaller to give us what we need for our school day while also keeping us safe. Thank you.
So, Mrs. Barr, I would love to, did you rehearse that under 3 minutes? Because you got 4 seconds left.
Yeah.
You did a fabulous job. You definitely took your 3 minutes. You took advantage of your 3 minutes. So thank you. And do you want to say something as well? Okay, and then we'll address it.
Isabella Hernandez, 380 Westfield Avenue. I'd also like to add on to this. I'd like to mention the fact that so many schools around the county are already using backpacks throughout the day. And we're not just asking for backpacks, we're just asking for much smaller. So these schools would be Union County Vocational Technical Schools, Westfield High School, Scotch Plains Fanwood High School, Cranford High School, Rahway High School, and Plainfield High School. Schools such as Governor Livingston as well have specified rules that they can carry around tote bags and not backpacks. The common concern with these use of bags throughout the day are their misuse and their safety concerns, which we've already been hoping that we can implement into our school even more. Examples of this are we're seeking to stay inside the 13 by 13 range for a bag. There are already security guards planted around the school ensuring our safety and watching any suspicious behavior. We're already recently have been implementing the phone policy where you keep your phone in the classroom, so that will prevent any suspicious behavior or communication, and just overall safety within our schools so that we can have this privacy and our own independence as students. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Barr, so just real quick on that. So we appreciate your time. We heard you, and then Ms. Barr, if you want to leave your petition with Mr. Grandi or something like that, and we can take a look at it and go from there. I believe it is a school policy, not a board policy at this time. So let us take a look at the policy, and we'll go from there. Okay? Thank you. State your name and address.
Yeah. Good evening. John Greaves, 30 Parkway Drive. I just had a brief question about the preschool with the high school adjustment that you guys are doing. Is that a long-term solution? Is that something that's going to be going on for 5-10 years from now? Because I know that there's a lot more younger families kind of moving into town, and, that seems like something that may possibly grow, and do you guys have space for that?
So I'll just, real quick, as Mr. Grande said, right, this is our solution short-term. We do have a district architect looking at other plans throughout the district that we'll talk about later in the spring once the board has had ample time to discuss those plans, because as Mr. Grande said, things do change, and we don't want to say we're going to do one thing and then have to change it in front of everybody. Mr. Grande, any comments on that?
I was going to say the same thing, Mr. Donkersloot, that the preschool and the plans to enhance our district facilities across the district are kind of going hand in hand, so we'll be able to answer that question better this spring when we have information back from the architect.
Okay, and then I guess one other one semi-related is, last year's school budget was an increase of, like 1.2 million. It seems like this year's is more than that even. It's like 1.5 increase from last year. Is that roughly right? I don't want to say the wrong thing. Is that? So the increase from last year, so from 2023 to 2024 is $1.2 million increase, I believe, and then this year from 24 to 25, it seems like it's about a $1.6 million increase. Is any of that additional money for the increase going towards increasing the facilities, or is it all in the bond referendum that you guys are doing?
The bond,
I know there's maybe more to it than that, but just...
Yeah, the bond referendum is outside the scope of the budget. So whatever's in the budget, basic for salaries, transportation, special ed, books, textbooks, things like that. So the referendum is completely out of the scope of the budget.
But the goal of increasing resources like facilities, that's not included in that? It would only be with the budget referendum? Because I know that the budget seems to be for upgrading the facilities.
So if your question is if the current budget is to enhance the facilities?
If, there seems to be an increase in the budget significantly over the last couple of years. Is any of that going to increase the facilities, or is it only the bond referendum?
No,
Question, I guess.
in the 25-26 budget, there is no projects in the budget for facilities.
Okay, all right. Thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
I just want to make a point, and it's really about the pre-K program. I think a lot of people want to know what's really going on as we move forward. But I think the important thing to understand is we received a 5-year grant for the pre-K. It's for 3- and 4-year-olds, and it's going to expand over the 5 years to get more people seats and going through that process. We're one of the few schools in Union County and the area that will have full-day pre-K, full-day kindergarten. We started that kindergarten program about 14 years ago. I think this is a tremendous asset for the community to be able to have something that basically is affordable by being free. It's going to be safe, it's going to be clean, and it's going to be well provided educationally. We're in the early stages, and I think Mr. Grande is going to bring this up because I think it's a good point. We're trying to enhance as we go through, starting 3-year-old to have that in this school district. So more information is going to come out. A lot of people are inquisitive. They want to kind of know what's going on. And Mr. Grande has put some stuff out in the community to get the parents out. We're going to have 60 students in this pre-K program, and it will expand. But I do think that we need to communicate. I think people need to know what's going on, because I think this is a very valuable program. So I just wanted that point to be made as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. State your name and your address for the record.
Good evening, John Henry Barr, 48 Skyline Drive. I need to preface my remarks by letting the board know that I'm speaking as a Clark resident. I am not speaking in my capacity as the municipal prosecutor for the Township of Clark. I am not speaking in my capacity as a member of the Board of Education of the Union County Vocational Technical Schools, and I am certainly not speaking in my capacity as a commissioner of the Election Law Enforcement Commission. I am just here today as a parent, a proud parent I might add, and a proud product of the Clark Public Schools. I do want to say that what you heard from my daughter Ainsley tonight was entirely her own doing. I had nothing to do with this. She decided that she wanted to bring this issue to the board. Her father may be a big political junkie, but she's not. And I'd ask you to heed what she had to say, because quite candidly, I think I'm keenly aware of the struggle between considering student security and student freedoms. It is something that all school boards and administrations deal with. But this might be something that she's pointed out where we may be able to provide some more flexibility such that teenage girls have the ability to carry things that they need to carry with them. And I'd ask the board to consider that. I know this may be a school policy, but I also want to tell you I have enormous confidence in our school administration, both at ALJ and quite candidly CUMF. With the ugliness of the past couple of weeks, what happened, I did speak to Mr. Delmonico outside CUMF the morning after the big incident, and he reassured me in an outstanding way. And I can't imagine that the day was any less stressful for him than anybody else. But I'm actually quite pleased with how the administration handled it. The only suggestion I might make, and I know there's no guidebook for crisis management for every potential scenario, especially what we had to deal with this past month, but the only suggestion I would make is my daughters were with this teacher. They never had an issue with this teacher, and they were shaken. They were genuinely shaken. I was concerned about their mental health, and I was glad to know that there was counseling available. My suggestion would have been that the knowledge that the counseling was available would have been a bit more reassuring to me as a parent earlier on. I want to wrap up by noting that one of the things that Ainsley talked about is something that could affect student performance. I have spoken privately to the superintendent and several of you about student performance. One of the things that bothers me a little bit about Clark right now is that in some statistical categories, we're in the bottom half of the county when I think we should be in the top half. We need to do a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of this and a little bit of that to get us into that top half. We have the talent pool in our schools with the faculty and the administration to get that to happen. I'd like to see us get that, to see that happen. But the one thing I do think the board should consider is when it comes to certain statistics on starting salaries for teachers, we are too low. We're just too low. We can't be where we are. And with that, as I said, I was wrapping up. That's the point I want to make. I thank the board. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Jessica Trende, 92 Hall Drive. I'm here today mainly to urge the board to reconsider the current teacher contracts. Thought it was good fitting to piggyback off of that, which I believe is up for renegotiation in 2026, particularly in regard to compensation and health benefits for our teachers, general and special education teachers, therapy providers, child study team members, and paraprofessionals, all of which, as you know, are being lost at an alarming rate. Just in the last few weeks, we lost at least one teacher and 3 paraprofessionals at Henley alone to higher paying districts. Yesterday, we learned our music teacher is moving up to the high school. The professionals in these roles face unique and often demanding challenges in supporting our students. Their work requires specialized skills, emotional dedication, and a deep understanding of each student's individual needs. However, despite their critical importance, their compensation doesn't fully reflect the complexities and responsibilities of their roles. I strongly believe that our teachers, paraprofessional, and other key members deserve greater recognition through fair pay, including appropriate differentials for those who have specialized roles and functions. These professionals play an indispensable role in our educational system and should be compensated accordingly. Additionally, ensuring access to comprehensive and affordable health benefits is crucial in retaining these talented individuals. Investing in the people who dedicate themselves to helping children will have a profound impact on both their well-being and then naturally the overall success of our educational system. Competitive pay coupled with benefits that reflect the demands of their jobs is a necessary step in attracting and retaining high-quality professionals who are vital to our children's success. I end this portion with respectfully asking the board to reconsider the teacher contracts to provide better compensation and enhanced benefits. The staff deserve our respect, support, and investment for the invaluable work they do every day. With the short time I think I have left, I'd also like to bring up the lack of continuum of services. that in-class resource option is virtually non-existent at the elementary school level. I said this 2 years ago at a board meeting. My son has had access because of my advocacy, but it's inherently discriminatory against any child with a language and a learning disability or a language disability. This needs to change. This is how we've always done it. It's just no longer an acceptable answer. As you can see, there is a growing team of parents behind these requests. I do thank you for your time, and I do look forward to your collaboration. This is also why we were concerned with preschool. We are for that. We do want the students and the mandatory grades and needs to be met first before expanding. I think that's critical.
Patricia Fontan, 2 Partridge Run, Clark, New Jersey. So I am here about the preschool. And I know that there's a lot of things that you can't answer yet, but as a mom who already had to put a deposit on a, backup plan because of so many questions that have not been answered, I just wanted a little more transparency. I know that the original plan of putting trailers at Henley was squashed as there was many concerns with that. Safety concerns, moving kindergarten classes out when they're more, in need than the pre-K. So I think my question is the plan with the high school. I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around how that's going to work out, because it is you're having, teenage kids mixed with 3- and 4-year-olds, and I know that they're going to section it off and stuff, but are these kids meant to stay in the classroom all day? Are they going to have the opportunity to be able to go outside and play? Are they going to have gym time? Do we have access to seeing the curriculum before we decide to go through with the free pre-K versus going private? Another concern is, the high school, new drivers, in and out, drop off, pick up, aftercare, before care. There's just so many questions, and I know that it's an amazing addition to Clark, and I really do think that it's amazing. I have 2 older kids in the school system that I had to pay for, so this is a great addition, and I thank everyone involved who did get it. But I just wish there was a little more transparency because we do have to make so many decisions early on. I know with Featherbed, I already had to put a deposit in. So if there's any little thing that you could share with us, I know they're going to email us with placements, but are you taking other suggestions? Because I know the rec center used to be set up for a preschool back in the days. So why can't they be there? Or is there still going to be classes there in addition to the high school? Is the partnership with Discovery and Kinder still there? I just feel like there's so many questions that we all just want answers for. Another thing that I also want to speak on is my current 2nd grader. Now, his amazing teacher from last year is leaving the district because she's so underpaid and didn't get health benefits for 3 years. So I do want to piggyback on what a lot of the other parents said, that teachers in Clark are extremely underpaid, and we are losing very, very valuable teachers because of this. All the districts around us, their salaries are so much higher, and I feel that we need to put a better focus on raising salaries, getting better benefits for these teachers, so that our kids can have valuable education and not just hire anybody. I mean, I feel like nowadays we're just taking anybody, and honestly, compared to other schools, Clark is very low. And I moved here 15 years ago thinking that we did have a good school system, but a lot of kids don't go to the high school here. A lot of kids are picking private. A lot of kids are going to vocational schools, and we need to find out why. Why don't kids want to stay in the Clark school system when it comes to high school?
Sorry, your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, thank you.
Good evening. Michael Schulman, 382 Carolina Street. I think I would second what many of the parents said, and I applaud them for all coming out on a busy Monday night. Teachers have to get paid more. We're happy there's a preschool, but yes, transparency is important. Mr. Lewis, you said it. We want to get it right, but as a parent, and this is my first go-round with a kindergartner, we had to plan a lot probably just to come here tonight. and to not have information about where the school's going to be, or the hours, is there going to be before and after care, how is that going to work, what is the 5-year plan, what is the plan after 5 years if the grant runs out. It is very difficult for parents to plan with so many unknowns. So I do think it is important for there to be a dialogue for the folks of the board to make themselves readily available, because I know the superintendent is. I've already had to email him, and he's incredible to get back to me, but the board also has to, and make sure they are out in the community explaining these things to people, and it's not an email that triggers a flood of responses. Less questions come when there's more answers in the first place. As to the other issue that's been discussed tonight, this was an investigation by the Somerset Prosecutor's Office where the individual lived, but obviously the individual taught here in Union County. They were not part of the investigation, as I can see it. Has the school been the subject of any search warrants or provided any of the computers or data? I think it would put a lot of parents at ease to know if this was something from Somerset County and stayed there, or if this did involve students here in some capacity. And probably the answer is we're not going to tell you, maybe, but but I think that would put a lot of people's minds at ease and not have that anxiety that's sitting with them, which is what I heard tonight, which is public websites and things that were definitely outside of the curriculum. So I guess those are my questions and comments. I thank you for your time.
So I can say we have been cooperating with the Somerset Prosecutor's Office, and I can't tell you what we've been asked to turn over or not turn over. So to a degree, yes, we are cooperating. We've been advised, and the Somerset Prosecutor's Office said we were free to say this. As far as we know, again, we know limited information about the investigation, but as far as we know, there were no Clark students involved in the activities of which this individual is being accused of. That's the information they provided to us.
I just want to make a point for the last two speakers, and also Mr. Barr as well. A lot of statements that were made are true, and they're fair statements. We do need to have enormously better transparency that people understand. There is an enormous amount of teachers, aides, paras, support that are fantastic in the Clark schools. I start there. There's a lot of things that were mentioned that we need to address and get better. The Board of Education has sent their students, their children through the schools, and some of the things Mr. Barr said, we need to do. We need to have better scores. We don't need to talk about and hide from anything. It bothers me personally when students don't pick ALJ. They don't pick the Clark schools. So the point is not to hide from that. It's to go after and address it, to have some forums, to get the best paras we get, the best support that we can get. We understand the situation, the plight with salaries. Believe me, I really enjoy living in the Clark Township, but as a board member, and the board is very committed to making the schools better. So sometimes when you hear some criticism, it's constructive criticism. And I just want you to understand, I'm excited about the pre-K program. I think it's going to be a home run. Full-day kindergarten, there's people that were on the board that we supported this, but we got to get better. We really do. So I'm not going to duck that issue. We have to turn around and get rigor, more commitment, more understanding what the parents want. As a parent, I would want the same thing. So we're not taking a blind eye to it. I say this to Mr. Grande and to his administration. We're going to work at that. We got to get those questions answered, and we want you to know we're a committed board, and I know we care. So the questions that you raised were good ones, but we do know our situation. And I think this is a good step, having pre-K that is for free. I really believe it's going to work out pretty good. But Henley, Valley, Conf, the high school, we all got to get better. We all understand that, so thank you.
Yeah, if I can ask a clarifying question. So when you're referencing the pay scales, right, are you more referring to the starting salaries, the lower end of the guides, as we call it? Yes. It's a non-tenured benefits. No, I agree. I work in the benefits world, so I totally understand. No, I just wanted to get some clarification for our notes. We, as Mr. Lewis said, we are very aware that obviously there's negotiations that are involved here, right? So it's not as easy as like where I sit in corporate America, where you just kind of turn around and say, okay, we're going to pay that person a little bit more. I think it was more than that, but and that's something that, listen, I'll be candid, that's something we'll never compete with. That's like impossible. Right. Yeah, no, point taken.
If I could just make a comment. I've been on a teacher negotiation committee now for the last 4 negotiations. I think our relationship with the teachers team has been really good. We haven't come to a great impasse in terms of our negotiations. What I find most challenging and most difficult is every one of these pay models are different, and they incentivize teachers in a different manner. We look to our attorney for advice to see where are we. You do these contracts all the time because I think my co-board members would tell you I'm extremely sensitive to making sure teachers are being paid what they should be paid. I don't think they should be paid more than they should be paid. I don't think they should be paid less than they should be paid. And I just happen to have 2 of my children are in education. So I'm extremely sensitive to that. What's most challenging to me is, to use this analogy, I feel quite often that I'm flying a plane with no lights on, in the sense that I don't know. We've spoken with the teachers team. I'm still waiting to see the first piece of data that shows us where we are in comparison to other school districts, to other similar schools. We haven't seen anything. I would think that from the teacher's perspective, you would expect that they're going to come with supporting documentation to say, hey, listen, this is where we are, here's where everybody else is, which could kind of help us. We feel that we've made some adjustments in the pay scale. We think there's still opportunity to make more, and talking about health benefits is absolutely key. Complete agreement. But I want you guys to know that we are, giving it our best good faith effort to try to get to a fair pay scale for everyone. And we do rely on the teachers' negotiation team to say, hey, are you guys satisfied with this? Is this where you think you should be? And so we've had a pretty positive relationship. So I hear you loud and clear. This isn't the first time we're hearing this, but the challenge from our perspective has been finding the appropriate supporting data. When you compare school districts, what we're paying teachers to teach in the Clark School District may be very different than what it is to teach in Elizabeth. Guys, it's a completely different environment. So that gets factored into it. So all I can tell you is we will be negotiating in good faith to come to a fair number and to make sure that what we're doing is reasonable and appropriate for our teachers' administration. Not only because we want it to be, because it should be. And that's where our heads are at.
Thank you, Mr. Smorl. Are there any? No.
this year than we did last year. There's a lot of students that we're attaining, so I hope that you continue to have faith in us, that we're seeing, and we're going to keep doing our best to increase our curriculum and bring the best programs to the students of Clark and Garwood, and I just want to make sure that that's kind of out there, that you guys know we're getting nationally ranked more and higher than we ever have before. We got a lot of good things going on with high school, so hold on tight.
This is good stuff. Thank you, Ms. Oliveira.
Megan Decker, 30 Prescott Turn. I'm going to return to the pre-K for just a second. So I did appreciate hearing that we're open to constructive criticism. I am the mom of someone currently in the pre-K program. I am thrilled about there being free pre-K at this point. But I will say that the rollout and continued rollout leaves a lot to be desired from the parental perspective. The communication has been incredibly challenging to get a sense to what some of the other parents were talking about before about us having to make decisions. I lost a full month's tuition payment to my daycare because I had to pull my son out mid-year to start in January to be guaranteed the September start for the way that rolls out. I think it's challenging for parents to need to be able to plan this far in advance and not get the information that we need. If you look at the current website for the Clark Pre-K program, there's no mention of the grant. There's no mention of the different sites. There's no mention of the differences between the sites, or who offers before care, who offers after care, what the timing is, who offers summer coverage. These are all things that we're thinking of as we're making these calculi, right? So if you can't share all of this information confirmed, I absolutely get it, but it would be really helpful for us to be able to get it, right? At least a sense of ballpark, this is what we're looking at, this is where it's currently operating. I think some of the other challenges that we faced is a lot of this has been via word of mouth. I would not have found out about the Clark PK program if I wasn't in the Clark Moms Facebook group. And I feel like I passed that information along to other parents that I'm also with. My children were in private care in Westfield at the time. And I feel like there's an opportunity for better communication out to the community, because I think part of the difficulty in planning a 5-year plan may be that we actually don't even know what demographic we're working with. How many pre-K age children are there in the community at this point that we're looking at enrolling in the program? And what are we looking at in terms of before care and after care needs? So I know this time, because we were at a mid-year rollout, there wasn't an opportunity, for example, to request a site placement switch. But if I was placed at the municipal center, I would have been screwed. I work in the Bronx. I commute 3 days a week with a 2.5-hour drive. If there's no aftercare, it's a program that I can't utilize. So having something like that, thinking about that moving forward, about giving parents the opportunity to say, hey, I would love to do this program. Can we rank preferences? Can we talk about limitations? That would help us in making decisions moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Grande?
Thank you for sharing that feedback. And there is on the district website under departments, on the district website under departments, there is a tab, preschool, that is current with our additional state aid, the preschool expansion aid. It has an FAQ. It has a record of all the communications that have gone out. So I would recommend, and this touches on some of Ms. Fontane's questions about the curriculum. There's a link to the Tools of the Mind curriculum. So I would recommend going, like I said, to departments, preschool, and you'll see all that information there. And Ms. Fontane, some of the, I don't want to take up the time now, but some of those more specific questions that you can find answers to on the website, if you call my office, I'll be happy to, talk to you about them one-on-one.
Thank goodness, I was afraid I was standing and messing up the audio or something. Hi, Jessie Hoff, 24 Colonial Drive in Clark. I just wanted to come up and say hello, not bringing up any issues. I'm the newly appointed councilwoman for the town, and I am so lucky that I get to be the Board of Education liaison, which is super exciting because back in the day, Tommy Lewis and I got elected at the same time, which was, a couple decades ago. But the Board of Education, like 20 minutes ago, not decades. But the Board of Education has always been my heart in the first place that I was able to get involved with for the town. And I'm just excited to be able to be the liaison for this and look forward to hearing all the great things that everyone's doing. But I just wanted to come up and say hi, and if anyone ever needs anything, you all have my number. Thank you. Okay.
I just want to make a closing statement because this was a good forum. This is a good meeting. There's a lot of things that were said, and we have to make sure that we have good transparency, we have good communication. So I want everyone to understand we are listening to what is being said tonight.
Marcella Cutrona, 86 Stonehenge Terrace in Clark. Just to speak to kind of what everybody has said this evening, I think the many concerns that were brought up are reflective of one common thing. Oftentimes it feels like the many stakeholders in our school community are left in the dark. And it also feels like some of the decisions for our schools do not always have the best interests of the children at heart. It feels like things are thrown together quickly and maybe not thought out. As someone who's worked in education for 20 years and as a parent of 3 children in the Clark School District, one of the major differences that I notice between neighboring districts where I have worked and our own is the low level of communication in Clark, where other districts send weekly newsletters, provide frequent communication, and an open forum for discussions about decisions that impact our children. My opinion is that Clark falls short. And I'm here tonight to encourage you to work on communication and to urge you to form a parent liaison committee of some sort that would improve communication amongst parents, the school board, administrators, and teachers. While the Board of Education and the superintendent are the heads of decisions for our district, the other constituents mentioned work with our children daily and see their needs firsthand. Parents and teachers see where children struggle or where they are not challenged enough and where they might need more. Why not give them a say or allow them some opinion in what is decided? Parents and teachers' opinions should be the first source of input that the Board of Ed considers. I don't recall an instance where my opinion was asked regarding curriculum or what have you in our schools, pre-K, teacher pay, whatever it might be. Our students need rigor, challenge, continuity, and strong staff, like the many wonderful people that we do have in our schools, but we'd like to retain them so that we can raise the bar on Clark Public Schools education. It would be wonderful to have more frequent and effective communication, input of staff and families, and a proactive versus reactive approach. I look forward to partnering with you and making this committee a possibility and a success. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Yes, state your name, your address.
Hi, my name is Michelle Gargiulo. I'm at 143 Hayes Avenue. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have 2 children that attend Frank K. Henley School. I would like to start off by saying that my sons have wonderful teachers this year, and I just couldn't be happier in that regard. But things at the school have bothered me for some time. Finding out my children would grow up without a library, one of my pastime favorites, was extremely disappointing. Then the playground, and finding out that my children get only 1 day of play on the playground versus blacktop only, due to lack of overcrowding, that was also extremely disappointing. One of my biggest setbacks of all was the realization that my children do not leave their classrooms for specials. That means no computer class, no music class, no art class. What a disappointment, what a shame, honestly. Our children go to school for 6 hours a day, and in these cold months if they do not have gym, they've only left their classroom for cafeteria time, of which they have, 20, 25 minutes, and I've heard get screamed at because it's the first time that they have stretched their legs all day and seen a different environment. Sorry, one second. I personally feel that this is an injustice to their mental health and their childhood. Allowing for a change in environment improves focus and mental well-being. It provides more opportunities for hands-on learning. And it's a break from the routine, a change in scenery that can help combat boredom, re-energize students, and it just improves their overall learning experience, all of which are crucial for healthy learning development and performance. I just think that our children deserve a space to learn and grow in a healthy way, and I just don't understand what we're doing now. I understand there's a 5-year plan, with the recent, pods, I don't know what we call them, it was my understanding that these were approved in 2023 to expand the Henley School for certain things that we needed. So then they were introduced to be used for preschool, and then they were taken off the table again. So what are our children getting? And I'm not talking about a 5-year plan. My children will not be there in 5 years. They're in a classroom all day long for, 5 days a week. It's a long time. And I don't feel it's right. And I just want to know what plan there is to do something, and not in a 5-year plan, like in the near future plan. Because there was money for these trailers, and now they're gone. So where are we putting those funds for our children, like now?
Gargiulo, you're 3 minutes.
You mentioned,
Ms. Gargiulo, you're 3
yes,
minutes. Right.
am I over time? Okay. Well, that's what I got. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
Hi, I'm Daria Perlmutter, 290 Madison Hill Road. I've never been to one of these and didn't even prepare anything. I was hoping to hear something touched upon when you were discussing the agenda. My son goes to Frank K. Henley School. He is in 3rd grade. His teacher is leaving. She resigned. It was vaguely touched upon. Nobody really elaborated. Is there a replacement for her? I did see maybe 2 numbers down that there was a 3rd grade teacher hired. Is that going to replace Ms. Cepeda? And also, I'm concerned because he had a substitute today. Not 1, not 2, but 4 in one day. That's not really acceptable when they're supposed to be learning and they have 4 different teachers throughout the day. So I was just hoping, this is his first year taking the state exams. Will they be preparing him for that? Will he have 1 teacher, 4 teachers? How many going forward? Thank you.
That situation with the multiple teachers going in the classroom is class coverage when we're unable to find a substitute teacher. Our goal is always to find 1 substitute for the entire school day, but when that's not possible, we circulate teachers in during their prep periods to provide the needed coverage. We do have a dearth of substitutes, no doubt. Yes, this evening for grade 3 at Henley School. Yes. Yes.
Are there any other comments? All right, so seeing none, we're going to close out that portion of the call. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Ms. Guerrero, Mr. Small, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.